Well, my friend Walter had asked to see a picture of the garden that he kept hearing about, so we'll start out with a scene of the bougainvillea in the backyard. There are 4 shrubs like this. And we'll show you a piece of the garden that I just got finished this a few weeks ago. And this is planted with wildflower seeds and a low stone wall right here. And lots of tiny seedlings coming up that are about 2 weeks old, which will be poppies and scarlet flax, as well as some straw flowers, which are also called bachelor buttons. And then the larger green things are native to the desert, and they are called globe mallows. And so now we'll see some of the less savory parts of the yard. Here is my cairn of stones, where the retaining wall stones have come from over time. And in the background you are looking at the sad swimming pool, which I acquired with this house when I bought this 6 years ago. Today is December 6th, 2011, almost 70 years since Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, 1941. So this is what the pool looks like. It was not quite 3 meters deep, and it's all been filled with what looks like dirt. Only 1/3 of it is stones, so it was not even good for growing the grass that was on it beforehand. And so here's another view of the bougainvillea in the backyard. We have an olive tree, and we have a pistachio tree which is just starting to turn yellow right now. And above the top of the roof, an ash tree in the neighbor's yard. So we'll walk through the carport here and see the front garden. And I will be mixing English and American English and speaking metric for the benefit of my friends outside the U.S. So those of you in the U.S. who can't understand the dimensions, you know how everybody else feels when we only speak in our own. So here's a tree that hasn't made it into the ground yet. And the neighbor's very, very green wall. This is the color you get when you go on vacation right before the painters start work. So here is one part of the garden here with a gerbera daisy, which is also called an African daisy. And the daisy just went in about 3 weeks ago. We have a red carnation, and we have more seedlings for the straw flowers and the bachelor buttons. The spindly little trees coming along here are called African sumacs, and they come up like weeds here in Arizona. They're very drought tolerant as opposed to the other things you see growing in this bed. The next bed has Cape honeysuckle in it, which are native to South Africa, hence the name Cape. And they just burst forth with orange flowers from time to time, and in bright sunlight they just look absolutely beautiful. Then we have an oleander intermixed with them that has red flowers from time to time. But here is a nice view of the Cape honeysuckle in full sunlight here. And then we have a poppy planted right where my shadow was there at the very base, and it blooms in orange flowers almost the same color as the honeysuckle. Then we have a new planting bed that I finally got expanded this year. It winds up being shaped like a pentagon. It has a brick border, and it's all completely level. All of the flower beds have to be level so that I can flood them with the irrigation hose, because we don't have real soil here in this part of Arizona. Our stuff that passes for soil is 90% clay. So when it's dry, it is as hard as cement, so you can't dig in it very well. The taller flowers, your plants that you see, are called scarlet flax, and they came up the middle of September. So they are about 10 weeks, 11 weeks old right now, and they are already better than knee-high. And so now we have another set of flowers here, and more scarlet flax coming along, and sweet peas coming along at the base of this tree. There is one there, and there are a couple other smaller ones. I'm going to hope to do this video once a month so that we can see the progress of the garden. There is a small bush called a lantana, which is very frost tender, and my friend Walter in Hemmingsen outside Antwerpen in Belgium will be pleased to know that it was 2 degrees here this morning. Here is one of the stone planters that I built last year, and it is 2-tiered, and there is a huge amount of earth that has been moved to backfill that. The stones are all just laid in place. The bed that you see in the foreground here was widened from just about 25 centimeters to 50 centimeters this year, and then there's hope to bring it all the way over to this brick path, which is halfway completed also. There's lots of things here that are half finished. So now you can see the brick path, which got done earlier this year with a hose in front of it. And we have a small circle here with what was supposed to be a tree in it. The tree is called a floss silk, which has a flower like an orchid. And we had a severe freeze last year where the temperature went down to about 3 or 4 degrees below zero 2 different times, which only happens about once every 10 to 20 years. So there is another flax that is about 25 centimeters tall. And you may be able to see the unevenness in the lawn here, where I've tried to lower it so that I can water without running over the sidewalk. And in amongst the fallen leaves you can perhaps see some more of the scarlet flax coming along there. And then there are more of them coming along here. So the idea is that in another 2 months' time the front garden will look kind of like a meadow. So we will advance to this bush here, which is an ash tree which had died and been cut back to the stump, and this is what has come back. It has bougainvillea intertwined within it and 3 different plants in different colors. So you may see some flower blossoms in that in the next video. Then we have another planter bed here along the front sidewalk. And the plants with the large leaves are called 4 o'clocks. They're supposed to have great big flowers that will open late in the afternoon, which is why they're called 4 o'clocks. We have an orange marigold planted in there to add some color till the other things start blooming. The white flowers that you've seen in this bed and the previous are the alyssum, and everything here was started from seed in about the beginning of October. So what you see here is about 2 months old, maybe an extra week there. The alyssum are always the first to bloom. And then we have also coming along more of the straw flowers, which have buds on them already, which is very unusual because they're not supposed to have buds on them for another month or 2 yet. And I'm actually a bit concerned that these have grown as large as they have now. As the weather is colder, they will become semi-dormant, but most of these are things that the weather will not harm even if it gets down to 0 degrees. Another planting bed. The white flowers once again you see are alyssum. This is a flowering pear tree meant as an ornamental tree, which the leaves turn a little bit reddish on. We have more of the alyssum coming along in the lawn here, and then scarlet flax coming up in the corner of this bed, which is waiting still to be seeded. We have a California pepper tree here, which is kind of a bush, and the tree is hollow. And it has a pretty weeping habit to it, but it's gotten much too old for itself and bits of it just keep seeming to die. So we have a greenhouse built at the front of the house by the former owner, and the glass has seen better days. We have what is called hard water here in Arizona, and that means it has a lot of dissolved salts and minerals in it, so it leaves the glass a kind of a cloudy or frosty color, which is not so good. And the only thing to be done is to take away all the glass and replace it. So we have another planter here which was new this fall, and it's lined with brick, which came out of the neighbor's house. And we have more of the white alyssum that you see in there. We have a hibiscus, which was only recently planted, and we have an oleander tree right here at the corner, which has just a few buds just starting to show. The predominant thing that you see here and covering the rock planter is a kind of oxalis, and this variety is called Bermuda buttercup, and it looks like a clover with spots on the back of the leaves, and it has a yellow flower which blooms usually from about 10 o'clock in the morning till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they close back up again. So we have a flower coming up out of the lawn here, which is called a gaillardia, and it has a beautiful sunset color, and it's a offshoot of one that had been here for 3 years. It finally died. 2 more seedlings there, and then there's one buried over in here. Now you see part of the stone wall. This was supposed to be a raised planter like the others, and I ran out of earth to backfill it. So it's a project for next year. But if you see the carpet of green, this is all the Bermuda buttercup oxalis. It will be a sea of yellow flowers starting in about a month, I believe. And these come from bulbs which are approximately 18 centimeters below the ground. And they survive through our summer temperatures of 45 degrees every afternoon because they're protected. And they just come forth in the wintertime once the temperatures are milder. Now we have a raised planter bed you see here, which was brand new this fall, so it's only been here for about 6 weeks. You see the flowers are much shorter. Here's another one of the Gerbera or African daisies. And you can see me in the video here after all. I actually look better like this than my silhouette is actually my best side here, so Walter and Rita will enjoy that, maybe Naomi. So you see one of the first of the alyssum blooming in this bed, and a fairly even mix between the scarlet flax, which will have red flowers about 3 centimeters across, and the straw flowers, which will be about the same side. And then as we get closer to the wall, you see the plants are taller because they were done about 3 weeks earlier. And here you see the stone wall has disappeared almost entirely behind the Bermuda buttercups. And you can't even hardly see the edge of this planter bed, but it also last year was only about 20 centimeters wide at the face of the stones, at the base of the stones. And it's been widened out to about double that size now. And then we have another planter bed coming across the front here. And this one we had to dig the grass out of. Now I've mentioned the Bermuda buttercups. The grass that is most popular here in Phoenix, Arizona and the Southwest is called Bermuda grass. And it has a tubular root which can go down sometimes as much as 20 centimeters as well. So in the process of planting these beds, I've also had to remove all this grass, which is sometimes seems almost an impossible chore. So here you see one of the African sumac trees a little bit larger, and then the tree in the corner here is a Chinese elm, and its leaves are just turning a little bit rust color. And then this overgrown shrub which needs pruning is called a myrtle. And you see the top of the red roof on the house. We got a beautiful new roof earlier this year because of a hailstorm from last fall. So we'll walk out to the pavement here, which is the English phrase for sidewalk, and see the front of the stone wall here. So you've seen probably almost 100 feet of stone wall here, and all of this stone wall is hand laid. There is no mortar involved in it. Because of the clay and the soil, it will stay in place almost permanently as long as you don't kick them and knock them out of place. And so the stones are equally behind there where you can't see. The tree that you see right here is a mesquite tree which came up as a volunteer, and I just hate to take things out. We hope it'll be far enough away from the sidewalk. And so as we walk along the pavement here, you see a spot with no stone wall and a few extra stones, and someday the stone wall should connect with this part down here, which is mortared in place, because I was afraid on the edge of the road here that people might kick the stones from time to time by accident. So I thought they should be more secure here. And now we have another tree here, which is a mesquite tree, and you see it has a beautiful spreading shape, and we work hard to keep it in line. And this one also came up as a volunteer by itself. And so our plan is to prune the other tree, which disappears there, but to prune it into a taller, more vase type shape, as opposed to the spreading umbrella shape of this one here. And then hopefully you can see the bougainvillea, which have grown up. And they froze back to bare sticks last January from the freeze that we had, and they have grown this much over the course of the summer. And now you can see the back wall of the house, and you can see that the bougainvillea come back across the wall. And now where you're looking at the bougainvillea, you're right back where we started, because on the back side of that wall is the planter bed with the very tiny flowers in it. And once again, the neighbor's pistachio tree and his ash tree. Now this may not look like much of a project to you, but considering the removal of the grass, which has roots that seemingly go halfway to China, and trying to dig in the soil, which is like cement, the way to work in it is to water it, and you must plan 3 days ahead of time so that you water it, then wait 2 days, and then you have about a day and a half where you can dig in it before it turns back into the consistency of cement. And finally, we have one more new tree here. This is called a Texas mountain laurel, and you see it has lots of branches lower down. It has a beautiful purplish blue flower, and looks like it's about to bloom in a month or so. And then the seed pods that are left behind will resemble a string of peanut shells. So I will scare you and turn this on myself here, hoping that it shows, and I will wish you a Merry Christmas and a Frohe Weihnachten and a God Yule and a Bon Natal. And if I missed any languages, I'm sorry. So until the next video, I wish you all well.